Got a question now from E-Dog.
Yeah, love the name. From Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah, E-Dog. What up, dog? Sounds good. All right. He goes, hello, and thank you for taking my question. I have a Roth IRA question for you experts. Not the garage door, the Megatron that you normally get, but a private equity Roth question for you today. I am a minority shareholder in a private c-corp, which likely will be acquired by a BFC, a big effing company.
I wondered how you're going to say that.
A little BFC.
Yeah, right.
I currently own roughly 6% of this small company. My question is if I could and should buy additional shares of the private company through my Roth IRA, or better yet, transfer shares that I already own into my Roth. I am both an employee of the company and a member of the board of directors of the company. The current stock value of the small company is about 17 cents a share, and I own roughly 400,000 shares. The expected sell price of the company is $2 per share of the BFC. BFC is going to buy it for $2 a share.
Right.
If I were able to buy or transfer into the Roth before the sale closes, I could have $800,000 in my Roth, happily growing tax-free until my retirement. Sounds pretty nice. My understanding is since I own less than 10% of the company's stock, I would not be a disqualified person. Assuming this is true, how would I go about executing this buy? Would I call up Vanguard and say, go buy private equity in XYZ Corp? I currently have $70,000 in my Roth IRA that could, in theory, cover the price of purchasing 400,000 shares at 17 cents. I also have not contributed any money to my Roth this year. How does this change if the BFC buys my company for stock versus cash, assuming the purchase is complete and I now have over $800,000 in my Roth? Should I then take the Roth principal out and bring it back to my brokerage account? I appreciate the candid discussion and spirited spitballing. I realize this may not impact the broader base of your listeners, but I also think it's a subject that hasn't really been covered anywhere else. So E-Dog here, he's got a little private company. So a BFC is going to buy it. And so he's thinking, you know what? Instead of having my stock in my brokerage account, or it's a privately held company, or however he's going to hold the privately held stock, it's probably just on a ledger, a piece of paper until they sell it. Then he's going to get cash, and he's going to get cashed out at $800,000. And he has $17 a share, and then he's going to get taxed on that from 17 cents a share, to $2 a share. So he almost has zero basis. So the total $800,000 that he's going to receive as being a board member in a shareholder of this private company is good news. He's got 800 grand. Bad news, he's got a lot of tax. And also the additional 800,000 or whatever the net effect after taxes is always going to be subject to capital gains tax. He's thinking, hey, there's a better way I should do this. I already know what the stock price is going to do. It's going to go to $2 a share. So might as well put it in my Roth. And so when the transaction happens, guess what? I pay no tax on the transaction. And then the $800,000 that I have is now sitting in my Roth. So all future dollar that grows is going to grow 100% tax-free. Sounds like an awesome plan.
Yep, I love it.
However,
there's a few issues here and there. And I think one off the bat, Joe, is there's all kinds of rules so that you can't do this for the exact reason you said, because it sounds too good to be true. So I guess if you think about it, there's a lot of prohibited transactions for your own IRA and stock in your company, first of all. And I guess maybe to summarize it is you can't have an investor in your, you can't have a stock from a disqualified person in your IRA. And then there's all kinds of rules. Well, who's disqualified? And right off the bat, I will tell you that if the company's already in existence and you own an IRA or a Roth and you want to buy the shares from yourself or buy more shares, you're already a disqualified person. You can't even do it with yourself, your spouse, your kids, your grandkids. It has to be someone completely unrelated to you. And there's all kinds of other rules that that you could run afoul of. So I don't think it works in this case. It can work though, Joe, when it's a brand new company. The company's not in existence yet. And so when a company is not yet in existence, it's not a disqualified person. So that is possible. So that's likely what Peter Thiel did way back when. But an existing company, it's really, really tricky.
Because what's interesting is that the company itself could be a disqualified person.
Right.
And then so it's like, okay, well, what's the definition of a disqualified person? Because we're thinking, you just hear the word disqualified person, you're just thinking it's a human being, but it could be the entity itself that's issuing the shares. So I own the shares and I'm trying to put my own shares into my own IRA. That could be self-dealing. So then I'm a disqualified person by doing that. However, I could purchase additional shares if the company itself is not a disqualified person, or the person that I'm purchasing it from is not a disqualified person. And how the hell do you find out who's disqualified or qualified?
Yeah, then there's all these rules, these 10% rules, and fiduciary. Are you fiduciary? Are you not a fiduciary? What kind of ownership do you have? What sort of control do you have? So it's tricky. And I would say for anyone that really wants to do this, it's a great strategy if it works.
Right.
But there's a lot of gray area in this. And if you get it wrong, the IRS will then basically say you needed to do a distribution full distribution way back when, fully taxable plus penalties. It's not something you want to screw around with. So my top advice, I guess, is anyone that wants to. We're not giving
advice. We're just
my top spitball thought, good point, is if you're considering something like this, bring in a tax attorney. This is very complex stuff. It's easy to get all fouled up in this.
Right. And don't go, it's not Vanguard. You have to go to a self-directed IRA. So anytime you want a hard asset or a private asset, things like that. So let's say if I wanted to buy an apartment building, I can do that inside my IRA. Vanguard's not going to hold the apartment building. I have to set up my own trust within a self-directed IRA. Then that trust then purchases the overall shares of company XYZ, or purchases whatever corporation or real estate holdings or things like that. So the three things that cannot be purchased in an IRA is like collectibles, right? So if you have an art collection, life insurance is another one, and then like S-corps for some odd reason. So those are really the only three things. So everything else is fair game. Then you go through a self-directed IRA, get a really good tax attorney, and let them kind of figure it out. Big Al and I are just spitballing here, and who knows? You might be able to do this. You might not. It's an awesome strategy. And you're right. It doesn't really affect a ton of people, but it's super interesting. If you could figure out, all right, can I, maximize my overall wealth by being smarter than the average person? And then that's what the show's all about, is trying to educate people to do things maybe a little bit differently, a little bit better. But we don't know if this is going to work for E-Dog's case.
Are you prepared for retirement? Schedule a free financial assessment with an experienced financial professional right online at purefinancial.com.